So I have a bit of a confession. When I first got started embroidering, I actually had no idea how to place and center my design perfectly, so I kind of just eyeballed it. But over time, I did learn some awesome tips and tricks that today I'm going to share with you guys so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. So before we get started, I just want to remind you guys that if you have any questions at all throughout the video, to leave a comment below and we'll get back to you with an answer. And I also wanted to say thank you guys so much to everyone who has subscribed. If you're new here, welcome to our channel. If you have not subscribed yet, then you need to do that right now. Go ahead and click subscribe, and don't forget to click on the little bell icon because that's going to notify you every time that we post a new video. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here's everything that you're gonna need to ensure perfect placement. And I'm gonna show you a couple different garments because it will be different with every garment. I mean, it's gonna generally be the same thing, but I wanted to show you a couple of hacks that I have for different types of garments. So I'm gonna start off with the easiest one, and that is our left chest logo placement. So let's go over here to this side, and I'm gonna show you exactly how you should be centering and placing your design on this garment. So I'm going to start with my placket shirt because this is the easiest one, and I'm going to use a little tool that you probably have heard of before, and if you haven't, this is the first time hearing of it, you are going to love this tool. It's called the Embroiderer's Helper, and it's to help you center, like mark the center of your design so that you can get it exactly where it needs to be on the shirt. Now keep in mind when you're embroidering these placket shirts and these polo shirts or any like left chest or right chest that you want to keep it a little bit closer to the center than you do to the armhole. You don't want it to be too close to the armhole because then it just looks awkward. So this is like the perfect template for using it because it has small, medium, large, and extra large. And then it has one on the bottom here too that you're gonna go ahead and mark to make sure that you have it all straight. So there's a little notch up here, and that is going to be for the placket shirts. That's going to go right under the first button. So this, if you read what it says here when you pick up the Embroiderer's Helper, which by the way is very inexpensive. I believe it's under $10. It's very inexpensive, and it's available in many sewing supply stores, embroidery supply stores. So first things first, it's going to say place the top left corner in the middle of the top button. So you just go ahead and place it there. And then it tells you the sizes. So this is a size small. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little mark right here on the size small, and then another mark right here on the size small. Then I would draw my lines, and I would know right here. You can draw a line if you want to. You don't have to. So like I would mark this here, and then you go ahead and like you can draw a line connecting it. And then we're going to introduce our production worksheet, which we're going to use with all of the centering, and I'm going to show you how in just a minute. So I did want to mention, if you guys are wondering what to mark your fabric with, something safe to mark your fabric with would be something like a water-soluble pen. Now, you do want to be careful with your water-soluble pens because some of them are not as reliable as others. If you guys want like a reviews on something like that, then that's something that we can do on our channel. If you're interested in seeing different reviews for water-soluble pens or just anything that you can do to mark your garments, what I like to use is chalk. And if you don't have, I right now have white chalk, so I'm not gonna mark it because you're obviously not gonna see it. But you can, if you don't have white chalk, you can use a different color. But I like to stick with my white, and it actually just comes off right, like very easily from your garment. So that's what I use. And now we're going to talk about our production worksheet, which I briefly mentioned. So if you don't know what this is a printout from your embroidery software. And let's say you don't have embroidery software right now. If you're just getting started and you're buying designs online from embroidery design sites, then they usually come with something like this. And if they don't, you should ask support because it should come with something like this. Because this is going to be your color sheet. It's going to tell you how many color stops there are, and then it's also going to tell you what colors you're going to want to use for each. So you'll use this as a guide. I'm not going to go too in depth on this, but for those of you wondering, this is the actual size printout of the design. And you see these lines right here that intersect, right there, that's the center. Now, you do have to keep in mind that not every embroidery design is centered dead in the center. So you will have to mark it in your software manually. So you're gonna have to go into your software and mark the center if it's not already on the center, okay? And it's very easy to do if you do have software. We have a tutorial on Wilcom that we'll link if you're interested in seeing that. It's very easy to do. But for the most part, I want you guys to print this out because this is going to really help beginners in making sure that you place perfectly. So you can also do this without your embroiderer's helper. It's also very easy to do. What I love about these package shirts is that they're already centered for you. So you don't have to do the work. You just have to, kind of find the center of this part. So these, in my opinion, these are the easiest to center. Now for this, you're gonna want to fold the collar in if you haven't already. It just helps. And now for men and women, it's going to differ because we know men's sizes are larger than women's sizes. So you're gonna want to mark a point. For women, I believe it's 5 to 7 inches down from the area where the collar and the shoulder seam meet. So right about here, you're gonna want to mark a point 5 to 7 inches, really depending on how high you want it and also the size. And then for men, you're gonna want to do, so instead of 5 to 7, you're gonna want to do 7 to 9. So that seems very low for this shirt because it's large. But probably for a men's shirt, maybe a men's size large, that would be appropriate. So you're gonna also have to, kind of make a judgment and see where your client or where you want it to be. But that's a general rule of thumb. And then also, so once you mark your point there, let's say I have a little point right there and I draw a line, then this way, we're gonna mark a point about 4 to 5 inches from the center, so the center of here, to where I previously marked my point. And then that's gonna give you your center. And of course, like I said before, the 4 to 5 inches really depends on how large the garment is. As you can see here, this is gives you that reference. This is, I would say, like about 1/2 inch. So it gives you like the perfect center. But you don't need this. You can do it on your own as well. But this is just, it's worth having. It's very inexpensive. So if you're new, this is a really good way to consistently hoop everything. All right, so here I have the back of a t-shirt, and you can do this with the back of anything, to be honest. Now, I'm gonna show you guys how I got this center, which is gonna be your most important line. So this line right here, you can get, there are several ways you can get this line. The easiest way can be measuring the collar, okay, but sometimes that's not very reliable. So you're gonna wanna double check, and this is how I double check. So let's say I measure it and it's 6 inches, and then I'll mark my point on the 3 inches, and then I will draw a line straight down there. And then I do this just to visualize how big it's gonna be, wide it's gonna be. And let's say this is 14 inches, I mark my point at my 7 inch in the center, and then I have my intersections, and this is actually just to help me with hooping. This helps me so much with hooping straight. Of course, you have to make sure that you are drawing straight lines, because if not, you're gonna hoop lopsided. But this is just a little trick that I wanted to show you guys. And what's next? Now I'm gonna show you guys how I actually get this line and just ensure that this line is perfect. This is another thing that you can do, is just fold the garment, making sure that the seams line up perfectly. So like from one end to another, you're gonna want it to line up perfectly. And then you're gonna use, you can use like binder clips or pins, whatever you choose to use. And kind of just line them up perfectly right here. And then obviously make sure that the garment is straight too while you're doing this. So I have these seams together, and now I want to do the seams of the inside of my shirt. So I'm just gonna pin them, use a binder clip, you can use a pin as well. And then here I have my chalk. And I'm going to mark a point right here, more or less. Can be however, because we're gonna scratch that later. But that's just for your reference for when you open it back up, you're gonna see a fold. So I would recommend like pressing down on it. And then when you open it back up, you know where you have marked it. And before I marked this garment, I was able to see the fold. But of course, I'm going to use my ruler to draw straight lines. And then I know that this is the exact center of my shirt. All right, so I'm back here where I want my design, and I know that I want it dead in the center. And then, of course, depending on, you know, how high or low I want it, I would draw my perpendicular line that I have here. If I wanted it higher up, I would draw it higher up. And if I wanted it lower, I'd draw it lower. In this instance, I drew it down here, so I'm just going to make believe that this is where I want it placed. And as you can see here, you can see the two perpendicular lines. I cut out this for my production worksheet. Now, this is the actual size of the embroidered, of how the embroidery will come out. You can also stitch it out if you don't have the production worksheet for whatever reason. You can just stitch it out like when you do a test, and you can place it right here. Now, usually your machine will have like a little crosshair and it'll tell you right where the center is. So that's just an option for those of you who don't have software at the moment or don't have access to the production worksheet. Now, these little lines right here, you can just grab like a pen or water soluble stabilizer or a pin, or not stabilizer, I don't know why I said stabilizer, I meant water soluble pen. Or a pin, or really anything to just puncture a little hole right where the lines intersect, because that's where you're going to mark your center. So I already marked it here, but you know. So now I'll draw a little, with my water soluble pen or my chalk, I will draw a little point, and obviously the point is going to match up with the lines I already drew. But this is just to help you guys really make sure. So, of course, when you have experience, you're not going to be needing to do this all the time. You're already going to know more or less where it's going to land and how it's going to look. But when you're just starting out, I really recommend measuring and taking all the steps to be able to do it correctly, because sometimes even the garments themselves, sometimes they might have a defect and they're not completely straight. Or sometimes it's just like manipulated a certain way where you're not measuring correctly. So just, you know, at first try to cover all your bases and create templates for the different garments that you're using. So once you have your mark here, the idea is you can actually, if you want, just to visualize it a little bit better, you can use like temporary adhesive spray or something to keep this on the garment as you're tracing, so you can see if the needle is going right around these edges. Some machines will have a contour tracing option, so your needle will follow the edges exactly as they are. So that's really neat if you want to, you know, be able to visualize it a little bit more. And one thing I did want to mention is that once you have this point here, the whole reason that you're making this point is because you're going to want to align your needle when you're tracing to this point right here. That's what's going to tell the machine, this is my center, this is where I want you to stitch, and that's how you're going to be able to know that this is exactly placed correctly. So the hardest part really is just placing and hooping. Once you place in your hoop and you make sure that your needle is aligned to this, the machine will, of course, do the work. So now I'm going to show you guys how you can create your own templates so that you don't have to do this every single time, because this may seem like a lengthy process, but you don't have to do this every time. You just have to get it right once. Of course, you should still double check, because like I said before, you might have something that has like a deficiency and it's not a defect, sorry, and it's not like perfect, or whatever it may be. You should always double check. But I like to use templates, kind of like the Embroiderer's Helper. You see how this is a template? You can make your own. They're super easy, and you can just like label them for whatever garment that you're using. So I'm gonna show you this bib that I have here, and we have a bunch of these that we just embroider random designs on. So I have this little template right here, so I don't have to go through and measure it all over again. So if I have a bunch of these bibs to make, I just grab this and I know exactly where the center is going to be. I know everything. So here, basically what I did was that I just grabbed a piece of paper and I labeled it bibs, so I know. So let's say you have a bunch, you can just like store them somewhere and oh, these are my polos of this type, and then you know exactly where it's going to be. So to make this template, all you have to do is just do your normal lines like you normally would by folding in half this way, folding in half the other way, making your lines, drawing your center point, verifying with the ruler, doing one or the other, whatever works for you. And then once you have your lines, you're going to grab a sheet of paper and you're going to cut it so that it's exactly on the side of this line. So if I have a line right here, you're going to cut it so that it's exactly the size of this line and it lines up right with the garment, okay? And that is going to be your width of your design, right? So that's going to be your width to, you know, of like from the outside to the center, right? And then you're going to do the same thing with this little mark right here. Wherever your line is, wherever your horizontal line is, you have your mark right here. And you're just going to know, okay, this is where my 2 points intersect. So I'm going to make a point right here. So it's basically the same thing as the embroiderer's helper. It just tells you, oh, right here, this is when you make your point, and that's where you make your point. So if you're not doing this already, you really should. This is going to save you so much time. Of course, I always encourage double checking, but it's going to save you time. You don't have to do this every single time you are hooping and centering your garment. All right, so before we wrap up, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button below and to subscribe to our channel. And I also want to take the time to invite you guys to our Facebook group, Embroidery and Custom Apparel Mastery. I have linked it below. In there, you can chat with me and thousands of other embroiderers. You can ask us any questions that you have. You can share any of your own advice. So I highly encourage you go in there and say hello to me. I love when people say hi and they tell me that they came from YouTube. And I also wanted to remind you guys before we go to join our newsletter, sign up if you haven't done so already, because you will get tips delivered to your inbox. So it's very beneficial for you and there's no harm. So go ahead and join our newsletter, join our group. I'll see you guys in the group. Bye. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button below and to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to join our newsletter because it's awesome. You'll get the best embroidery tips from them. I have linked it in the bio, and I have also linked our Facebook group. I'm literally crying. Oh my God. So you don't like my singing bio. All right, now it's time for the real bio.